start by introducing yourself and introducing your position here in A Baby's Breath.
Great. Thank you so much. Well, my name is Father Steve DeLacy. I'm for the Archdiocese of Philadelphia. I'm the Vicar of Faith Formation with youth and young adults. And for A Baby's Breath, for the most part, I act as the MC for their annual silent auction and dinner. But I plug in and do kind of some spiritual works for them, like run retreats, days of recollection, that type of thing.
How long have you been doing that with the
organization? So I think my first connection with A Baby's Breath was probably back in I believe it was like 2008 or 2009 in that ballpark, just doing a couple kind of volunteer things. And then I believe I've been doing the silent auction. I believe this is my 6th time doing it.
Okay.
So. And
you have done some other work, not with pro-life, but you've worked with high schools, you've worked in my alma mater, and you've worked in, around youth. I think that's been mainly where I've seen you the most of. That's
definitely been my theme in life. I was in 2 different high schools, Archbishop Carroll and then Pope John Paul II High School, and then I work with youth and young adults now. So that's definitely been a theme. I was the vocation director for a period of time. So getting to work with the young church in that avenue. So our young people, I have a passion for them, and our Lord is very enthusiastic for them.
How do you see their reaction in the pro-life movement evolve? I guess politically, it's been sort of a mess. It's been like, we're never going to get Roe v. Wade overturned. Now we do. What have you noticed the most about that change in position?
For sure. A lot of times our young people, when they hear the truth, they're enthusiastic to be countercultural, especially when they hear the science behind the development of the child, and also the church's moral teaching. When they hear it clearly, then they do tend to be pro-life. What we experienced then with the overturning of Roe versus Wade, it happened right at the beginning of the summer, and then a lot of times our supports that are there very strongly were not present. So it was an interesting dynamic. One, I don't think we really fully realized that our student body, because they would hear people complaining about the overturning of Roe versus Wade, and there was this kind of intensifying of the culture claiming abortion to be a right. There's no truth to that, but it sounds awful. Oh, somebody's taking a right away from somebody. Well, I don't want to see that happen, so it sounds awful. It's a malformation. So I do think it was a great victory overall for the pro-life movement, but it was a sobering result for our young people in the need for our intentional formation of them on what the truth is about these things.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think you've seen more people take a step back from pro-life when it should be stepping forward.
That's
because right. Now you see a little bit more pushback. And now the fight was in D.C. Well, now it's in your state. And the fight in some more left-leaning states have been overwhelmed by the amount of, I guess you could say, young support for not life.
Absolutely. And you could see they're in a sense, thanks be to God, the White House and other areas, the pro-life won some political battles in this last election cycle, but you could see the greater intensity on the side of the left broadcasting. Before it used to be something they would apologize for believing in. Well, nobody likes abortion. It's not something we really want to support, but we feel like it's a necessary evil. Was kind of the sentiment, maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Today, you see billboards of the main thing that a candidate was supporting was like first thing was oftentimes was women's rights or abortion rights or whatever, and that type of thing. So when there's that kind of emboldening then of the political candidates, I think there is a trickle down where some of the young people get swept away by the lies of all this, or at least they just don't see the truth clearly.
How does an organization like A Baby's Breath, that tries to be family-centered, not just baby-centered or mother and child-centered, how does that message sort of resonate, or how do you think that transmits to young people?
I think A Baby's Breath is really a powerful response for young people. because a lot of times it's presented as we're somehow hurting the mother or the woman involved, when there is not the abortion on demand that people think that there should be, and somehow we're putting these women in a very dire circumstance. But then if you take a look at a baby's breath, the amazing support and care and love that's available for a woman who's in a crisis pregnancy. No woman has to go through a pregnancy on her own if she knows how to get in touch with a baby's breath. And I think that's the right compelling argument to share with our young people today, that the pro-life movement is not just about saving the lives of babies. We very much are. That's extremely important. We also want to protect and love and take care of these young mothers who are oftentimes put in very difficult situations. And this great organization is giving the right support for what these women need in these difficult pregnancies.
You mentioned in your opening speech about how it's on pro-life now to make the public trust in pro-life. How does an organization like A Baby's Breath give young people something more to trust other than what it's been doing?
For sure. So I think the way A Baby's Breath could really build up this trust, and we're referring to J.D. Vance kind of had a call out to the pro-life movement in the vice president debate, where he says it's really on the onus of pro-lifers to cultivate trust amongst those that are disagreeing with us on this very important issue. And I think for young people, quite frankly, the more contact we can create with A Baby's Breath, the more they're going to be compelled by this great mission. Seeing hands-on just the concrete support that these women are given, that there's an ultrasound machine, there is other means to kind of support, but collection of diapers and all these things that will concretely help this mother to see the child to term, and then also to help to raise the child if she chooses to keep the child and not put it up for adoption. I think that's so compelling when you see a young person go to a crisis pregnancy center like this, and they're overwhelmed by all the good and resources that are available. It can change the narrative overnight, because it's such a compelling witness that we love these women and that we're going to support these mothers.
Last question is, if you were trying to talk to more priests, how do you, convince them to be very effective about being pro-life? How do you tell them to basically put the mother in your heart and tell them, their sins can be forgiven, but you have to tell them that they need to want to be forgiven.
So true. And there's this post-abortive healing, this post-abortive syndrome that a lot of times women go through, that they sometimes find it hard to believe that God can forgive them. Some of them do have that sense God can forgive them, but they find it impossible to forgive themselves, because it is a heinous act of taking the life of your child. To talk to my brother priest about distributing God's mercy, helping these young women to understand the dire situation they were in if they had an abortion, and how vulnerable they were if nobody was stepping up to give them the proper support. You're very vulnerable to choosing an abortion, because it can feel like it's the solution. It actually multiplies the problem. Even in the case of incest and rape, an abortion is multiplying the problem. And so in this very vulnerable time, the pro-lifers, the church, everyone of goodwill, we need to come in with tremendous support, and A Baby's Breath is really answering that call.
And you would say if priests can find that to be the way that they can help the most is to locate these pro-life organizations that help the mother, help the child together.
Absolutely. I would challenge every priest out there to visit A Baby's Breath or similar organizations. Get to know them intimately so that you can preach about them. It is actually a very easy way to preach on the pro-life message when you're giving a very clear message of supporting the woman. It oftentimes cuts through some of the confusion that's out there that somehow we're anti-women in this. And once you understand these organizations, you have a great tool to preach the truth about the evil of abortion.
thank you for your time, Father. That was
My
very
pleasure.
good.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.